Hey there, comic book fans. I'm back from the comic shop again this week, and got 4 new comics. A couple of True Believers and a couple of pull list things. Oh, and man, I've had this cold that's been kicking my butt for almost a week. Today's pretty much the first day I've been up and around. Well, you got a comic shop news. Yeah, I can barely string coherent thoughts together. Second Coming. Oh, this is that book that was canceled by Vertigo. It's coming out by someone else now. Who is it coming out by? I can't. Second Coming, a 6-issue series from, I don't know. Somewhere in here it tells you where Second Coming is coming, which company is coming out from now, but I don't know what it is. like I said, I'm a little, my brain isn't working. But at least my ears are. I was at the comic shop, and the pressure in my ears wasn't right, and I could barely hear stuff, and they popped, and I was like, oh, I can hear again. All sorts of new comics coming out. Shazam, Captain Marvel, The Borgias, Jodorowsky, Trout, okay, Fight Club, Anthem. I don't know any of this stuff. Lots of fun new stuff coming out. That's the one freebie I also got this week. I bought some magazine-size comic book bags because I was out of these. I buy 100 of these every 3 or 4 years and use them up for whatever. Sometimes I put art prints in them, sometimes magazine stuff, whatever. But got some more magazine bags. Let's see, what do we have here? True Believers #1. And this one, I've at least finally learned to flip. They put the cover on the last page. So that's Thor 339. 339, a Walt Simonson issue. Not even Stormbreaker. Oh, I guess it's the... if I can remember correctly, I haven't read Walt's Thor in a long, long time, but didn't Beta Ray Bill find Thor's hammer and he was worthy? That's why he got the hammer of Thor, but then Odin made him his own hammer. I guess this is where... Yeah, there's Odin making a hammer. There's Odin down there. So I guess Odin made Beta Ray Bill his own hammer, Stormbreaker. Like I said, I haven't read this since the early 80s when it came out. Wonder if they still have that. Oh, they did. Copyright 1983. They still have, in the reproduction of the cover, there's usually a copyright line in the corner box. So that's a way you can tell what year it came. What's interesting too is when it used to be my job to put the covers together in the 90s, there's 2 copyright lines in a comic. There's the copyright line in the indicia, and then there was the copyright line in the corner box. And they didn't always match, because the copyright line in the corner box had to be the date it came out, and the copyright line in the indicia was the date of the month of the book, because comics were usually 3 months ahead. So that this is January. This right here is going to January 83. So this is probably January 84's cover date. And the indicia would say January 1984. But on the cover it would have to say 1983. So it's like the dates didn't always line up in the copyrights. For some reason we always had to do it that way. That just popped into my mind as I was showing you that. And here, the other one is True Believer, The Avengers, Thanos, Gamora. Let's see which one. Warlock and the Infinity Watch #9. We'll give this one a read. Let's see what's the 1992. October 1992. So I actually read last week's True Believers, which was one of the Infinity Gauntlet issues, #5 or something. That was the first Infinity Gauntlet I ever read. And I enjoyed it, I must say. I've never read the Infinity Watch, so we'll have to see how that is. Need a little water. Hold on a second. I'm drinking plenty of fluids to try and kick this cold or sinus infection or whatever it is. I don't even know. Let's see. Savage Dragon 243. Amy Dragon fights alone. She's a toddler. She's one of the toddler dragons. Malcolm Dragon's kids. Oh, there's some Ant. She was around last issue. Oh, look, back cover. Zombie and stuff. What do we got here? Zombies and robots and devils. Oh, that's Super Patriot and Mighty Man. There we go. Must be a backup story. There's a random panel for you. I always enjoy Savage Dragon. You know, I've been buying it. I've actually been buying it since issue around 70 was when I first started picking it up. And then I went back and bought the first 70. So I read some of the early Savage Dragons, but really wasn't into this Image stuff back in the 90s. But I eventually got into this one. It was funny because I first started reading it around issue 70, where he destroyed his whole world and made him and did this whole commandy riff with Savage Dragon, and actually started drawing more like his layouts more like Jack Kirby. So that was a good time for me to start picking it up and getting into it, because that was more my thing. And the last issue we got, The Life and Death of Toyo Harada, issue number 2. Who's doing? Is this still the K-Fu? Oh, Butch Geis is doing some of this stuff too. Okay, I really liked issue number 1. Issue number 1 seemed to pick up right where the Imperium left off. There's some of the artwork for you. I think that's Butch Geis. Speaking of Butch Geis, I picked up that book last week by his that he drew, Amber something. The one that I said was returnable. I ended up not returning it, but my friend wanted to buy it, so he bought it. And I really liked the Butch Geis artwork, but the story was a little pedestrian, so I wasn't terribly into it. That looks like the Cafu drawing, as opposed to Butch Geis. But yeah, I really enjoyed. This is the story of Toyo Harada, who I guess is the super villain of this Valiant universe, but he's really trying to make the world a better place. So it's really interesting as he tries to make the world a better place, but the powers that be do not want him to take over and make the world a better place. They just don't want him to take over. They don't care if he's trying to make the world a better place or not. They're running the world, and they don't want anything to do with him. So is that all 4 comics? I tell you, my mind is so goofy. I was like, oh yeah, that's all 4 comics. And I think, being that I've had this cold, I've gotten nothing done this week. So all this stuff back here, matter of fact, I think if I take these 2 away, this is exactly what it looked like last week when I showed you. These 2 actually, they're a little bit flatter this week because I've had these under books for a week. This is watercolor. I may have shown you these ones. These are my watercolor sci-fi fantasy landscapes. But when you do watercolor at this size, watercolor will warp the paper, which, that's typical of watercolor. You try to keep it as flat as you can. But these got a little too wobbly for me. And there's things you can do to stretch the paper and keep it flat, but that doesn't always work. So I have a stack of books over there that I lift up and put things under. So these have actually been under those books for a week. So now they're a little flatter, but I haven't. These are the 2 I just pulled these out just an hour or 2 ago. So they're the only thing new on here, even though they're not new. They're just new this week, but otherwise, this is all the stuff I showed you last week. Because, man, this cold is killing me. Little cards, little 5x7s, dreams of things. Picture. I actually just wrote a blog about random pictures on my easel. I haven't posted it yet, but we'll see when I do. RadiantComics.com is my blog and webcomic, by the way, in case you ever want to check that out. But there you go. A little bit of artwork. Nothing new this week. Could have dug some old stuff out, but my brain, it's all scrambled. You guys have a good week out there.